Hello everyone. This section we will learn the T cell receptors and its signal. So let's see how many molecules expressed on T cell, and how we can see which kind of molecules expressed on T cell. So let's see the first one. So this is special for T cell. Yeah, why we call it special? Because it is T cell receptor. So it is specific expressed on T cell. So did you remember for B cell? So B cell also has B cell receptor, and actually it is the mammary immunoglobulin. So that part, the B cell express the mammary IgM on their cell surface. The function for this mammary IgM is to specific recognize antigen. So similar to this mammary IgM, we have a similar structure on T cell. It is TCR, T cell receptor. And also the structure is similar. So for the TCR also, they have the variable region and the constant region. So this variable region is also very diversity and can recognize almost all the different antigen in this world. So here the variable region and also the constant region. So now we know the function for the TCR. What is the function for TCR? They have this variable region to recognize different antigen. So the function for the TCR is to recognize antigen. So they want to transfer this antigen signal to the T cell, into T cell. But let's see. This TCR is a transmembrane protein, right? So we have a very big structure outside of cell. But here, let's see, in the cytoplasmic tail, it is very short. So how can the TCR to transfer this antigen signal to the cells, to T cell? So the T cell have other molecules help TCR to transfer this antigen signal. So what is it? CD3. So this CD3 has 3 dimers and these 6 chains to help TCR to transfer the antigen signal. So here, let's see that this CD3, they have one special structure, and this structure helps the TCR to transfer the antigen into the cells. So this is a TCR CD3 complex. And this yellow part is just now I said the special structure, and this part will transfer the signal into the T cell. So now let's see this TCR here is variable region, right? Here it is the constant region. So this part to recognize antigen. Which kind of antigen? Last class we learned this antigen or this peptide presented by MHC molecule. So here, this part to recognize antigen, and they will transfer this antigen signal to the T cell. And here, the TCR, the tail is very short, so they cannot transfer the signal into the T cell, so they need their help from CD3. So this CD3 has the structure, we call it ITAM, immunoreceptor tyrosine-based activation motif. So this motif will transfer the antigen signal. And this CD3 expressed on all the mature T cell. So if we want to know how many T cells in one person, and we will recognize this CD3 molecule. So this CD3 is the marker for mature T cell. Here, introduce the ITAM. So this ITAM help the T cell to transfer the antigen signal. And for the T cell to transfer the signal, so this T cell must recognize the MHC molecule present peptide. So for T cell to recognize this antigen, they have 2 conditions. First, this TCR recognizes this peptide. This is specific. Second, this TCR and this MHC must match. So we call it self-MHC restriction. So in the right one, we know. So the same MHC, you see the H2K, this loci, H2K. So this TCR recognizes this MHC and also the antigen. But here, the second one, the MHC is same, but the peptide is different. So this TCR cannot recognize this peptide. And the last one, the peptide is same with the right one, but the MHC is different. So this TCL, this 2K, this TCL cannot recognize this different MHC molecule. So this we call it self-MHC restriction of a T cell receptor. So that means the T cell want to recognize the antigen. So they must recognize the antigen present by MHC molecule. So TCR cannot recognize free antigen. This is different from B cell. So T cell recognize antigen only presented by MHC molecule. And this MHC molecule is self-MHC restriction. And besides the TCR CD3 complex, also for T cell, they have other molecules also help T cell to transfer this signal to make this binding interaction between the T cell and APC, antigen presenting cells. So first, CD4 or CD8. So last section we know for MHC molecule, the structure for MHC molecule we know. For class 1 molecule, they have one heavy chain, alpha chain, right? 3 domains, and we know for alpha 1, alpha 2 is to present peptide, and alpha 3 domain to bind with CD8, this molecule. And for class 2 molecule, we know it is a dimer. They have 2 chains, alpha chain and beta chain, and alpha 1, beta 1, this domain to present antigen, but the beta 2 domain will bind this CD4 molecule. So that is C. This is the CD8. The CD8 bind with class 1, alpha 3 domain, and the CD4 bind with the beta 2 class 2 MHC class 2 molecules. So that's C, the antigen signal transfer into the cell. So this is the class 2 MHC class 2 molecule, and this MHC present antigen. So this alpha 1, beta 1, this domain present this antigen. And this is the T cell, TCR. TCR specific recognize this antigen. And this CD3 molecule use their ITAM, this structure, help this TCR transfer the antigen signal into the T cell. And also, this is the class 2 molecule. Here, the CD4 molecule bind the beta 2 domain with class 1 with class 2 molecule. So also later we know this is the first signal for T cell activation. So this is the first signal for T cell activation. So T cell want to be activated, they must have 2 signals, and this is the first signal. The first signal is from antigen signal. So the TCR recognize antigen. This is the specific recognition, and the CD3 help TCR to transfer this antigen signal, and also CD4 molecule binding class 2 molecule. So this is the complete first signal for T cell activation. The second signal for T cell activation is between the CD28 and B7 molecule. So for APC, antigen presenting cells, they have MHC2 molecule present antigen. So this is the first signal for T cell activation. And the second signal, so APC express B7, this molecule, B7.1 or B7.2. So also B7.1 is CD80 and B7.2 is CD86. And these B7 molecules specific binding with CD28, and the CD28 expressed on T cell. So T cell express CD28 and recognize B7 for APC. This is the second signal for T cell activation. So now this T cell get two signals. After that, also have some help from cytokines, and this T cell can be activated. And now that's seeing this T cell was activated, and we have some regulatory mechanism to stop the T cell activation. So for activated T cell can express CTLA4, this molecule for activated T cell. And this molecule has the same ligand with CD28, also binding with B7. But be careful, this CTLA4 has higher affinity than CD28 to bind with B7. So that's think for the naive T cell, they only have this CD28, right? So they bind with B7. So okay, now this T cell received these two signals. After that, T cell was activated. But after that, this T cell become activated T cell. Then they will express CTLA4. And CTLA4 also bind B7, the same ligand. You see, this is the activated T cell. So both CD28 and CTLA4 binding with B7, but the affinity is different. The CTLA4 has a higher affinity than CD28 binding with B7. So after that, after the T cell was activated, the T cell has one regulatory mechanism to stop this activation, so to reduce the immune response. So for this section, we learned the molecules expressed on T cell. So the TCR-CD3 complex. So TCR-CD3 complex to recognize antigen. So they will transfer the antigen signal. And the CD4 or CD8 help the TCR to transfer this antigen signal. So this CD4 or CD8, we also call it co-receptor. And CD28 binding with B7. So this CD28 is the second signal for T cell activation. So this CD28, we also call it co-stimulatory signal for T cell activation. And the CTLA4 expressed on activated T cell. So this belong to the regulatory mechanism. So they will reduce their immune response. So for this class, the two signals for T cell activation you should know. So what is the two signals for T cell activation? So the first signal is from antigen. The TCR recognize antigen, and the CD3, CD4, or CD8 help the TCR to transfer this antigen signal. And the CD28 bound with B7 gave the co-stimulatory signal, the second signal for T cell activation. So it's okay for this section.